Oh, hey there, audit and fraud friends and family. Listen, I know last week I said that this was a story that you would not believe. And it was so bad last week, I didn't even have a good intro for it. Well, just when I thought we couldn't top it, this week's is right out of you can't make this stuff up pile. So let's just say a quiet night, a crowbar, and a gold chain. That sounds like the start of a really bad joke, right? But you're going to learn today that they have several things in common. So join us today when we talk about a case where digital breadcrumbs lead straight back to the culprits. And sometimes the most damning evidence against you is that you uh, post yourself. And that's kind of embarrassing, right? That's real embarrassing. Okay, are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, so look, you guys heard the beginning. This one today is just a cluster, you know what, and it's gonna make you laugh, cry, and also question humanity all at the same time. So without further ado, let's bring up our special co-host for today, and there he is, Thomas.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday.
Hey man, how you doing today?
I am peachy. I'm very thankful for air conditioning. It's nice and hot here in Houston, but very thankful for air conditioning.
All right, so I got a question for you, Thomas. I got a question for
Yeah.
you. When is the last time you've used an ATM?
Ooh, probably been a couple of weeks. I'm married, so I'm very limited on how much cash I can actually use. So,
You mean your allowance is real small, huh?
yeah, I don't go to ATMs much. Plus, half the time the ATM's not working anyway when I get up to it. What can I say?
Ooh, kind of like McDonald's milkshake machines, huh?
Exactly.
But see, you said a couple of weeks. Dude, the last time I used an ATM had to be months ago. I mean, several
Well, when you're
months
broke,
ago.
there's not much to get out, right?
Right. Okay. So for everyone listening, I'm just curious. When is the last time you've used an ATM, and how much did you take out? Thomas, how much did you take out the last time you used an ATM?
I want to say $100.
$100. Okay, not bad. That's probably one day at the movies for you and the family, right? Yeah, one whole day.
Something like that, yeah. Sometimes when we do like road trips and something like that, we try to have a little cash in our our pockets just in case. But so yeah, probably about
Yeah, it's good to have a little bit of cash. So I was reading recently from some banking and financial services journals, and they were saying that ATM withdrawals were at an all-time high.
Huh. Wonder why. I would expect it to be going down.
Okay, so you know what? I thought about this too, because I thought to myself, they should be going down much the same way that you thought. But let's put on our auditor hat here and let's speculate for just 1 minute. Now, again, this is just fantasy world. I'm not saying that I've done this or I know anyone that have done this, but here's my speculation. And Julio is here, my man Julio. Julio says it's been a long time since he's used an ATM machine. I'm sorry, an ATM, because it's not an ATM machine, right? That's redundant. Okay.
Automatic teller machine.
Right. Here's my speculation. Think about this. What have we seen in the news recently? They've said that people who are behind on their student loans will now face wage garnishments. And how do they do? They either do wage garnishments directly out of your check, but if you are an entrepreneur and you have your own job, they're going to go to your bank account. Well, it's kind of hard to get money out of your bank account if you have cash in hand, right?
True, true. I'm just thinking it makes it so much easier to either whip out the card or even nowadays tap your phone or tap your watch or something like that to pay. So people are lazy.
Yeah, but
I would expect the easy thing to do.
if you're facing garnishment from the student loan services, then you'll probably take that cash out. Now, the other thing too, though, is we also know that credit card debt is at an all-time high. I read a stat recently that said that the average person that was in debt trouble had about $8,000 in credit card debt that they could not pay off. Because some people use credit cards strategically, but they're saying
Right.
that these people have debt that they cannot pay off.
Well, the economy keeps kind of doing these waves, right? And you and I are old enough; we've seen it multiple times now, and we're kind of in that lower, not necessarily saying recession or anything like that, but the economy is definitely struggling a bit. So I could see that, and people and expenses keep going up. So if expenses keep going up, wages are not going up, then yeah, people don't want to adjust their lifestyle. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, let me ask another question then. How much money do you think the average ATM holds? What would be your guess if you just had to guess? And for anybody else listening who wants to chime in on this, what would be your guess? How much money do you think that the average ATM holds?
I would assume it doesn't hold a lot. So I would I would assume I'm gonna have a hard time talking today. I'm gonna assume 25,000.
Yeah, so when I was in college, I was a bank teller,
Yeah.
and one of my jobs would be to refill the ATM. And we didn't have any more than around 50,000 in it,
Okay.
even on a busy weekend. So that seems like a reasonable number, right? And then when you look at ATMs, they're usually fairly well protected. They're inside buildings. And so it'd be kind of hard to get to the ATM. Some ATMs you can just drive up with your car, roll down your window. Others you have to get out of your car and walk up to a building. But either way, you've got to take some effort to get to the ATM and that $50,000 that it might hold, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I'm always paranoid about hitting the concrete, pillars that are next to them. Right. There's always some kind of concrete something, so you can't just drive over it with the truck or something.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, best practice would be park your car, get out and go up to the ATM and put your card in. It wouldn't be a good practice to just get a truck and ram the ATM machine and then get a chain and wrap it around the ATM and kind of pull it out. That wouldn't be wise now, would it? That is,
At least as long as it's not your own truck. I mean,
you make a good point. As long as it's not your own truck. If you steal somebody else's truck and then ram it into an ATM, then that could work, right?
of course, you might walk away with some bumps and bruises and and other injuries if you do that. But yeah, because there's no way a truck could survive. Yeah, trying to take out an ATM.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. Now, Julio, you work in banking. What's the average amount of money that you guys have in your ATMs?
And
So
if you can also give us the address of where they're located, maybe some GPS. No, I'm kidding.
the address and the GPS locations. Bob says a dump truck, right? Oh,
Yep.
now if you guys can see, I'm trying a new feature here. It didn't working too well, where comments are showing up right here on the corner as they occur. I don't like the way it looks. I'll probably have to play with it and bring it back at some other point in time. That looked a
Yeah,
little
that was pretty small.
okay. Okay. So now, with all of this ATM talk, let's kind of get into what 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 happened in this story that we're going to talk about today. um so two young men decided that they needed some money. They were broke, they needed a little bit of money. And instead of going out and doing what most of us do, and that's get a job, they decided to go and procure a vehicle. And when I say procure, I mean they stole it. Allegedly, They also got this big gold chain, and they wrapped the gold chain around the ATM and pew, procured the ATM. Um, hmm. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. The two men were wearing masks and gloves. They jumped out of a tan pickup truck, walked up to the ATM. At first, they tried to pry it open with crowbars, and when that didn't work, that's when they, well, hooked a large gold chain around it and then pulled the ATM out. After they pulled it out, it exposed the internal vaults where the money was stored. And then the duo pried open those internal vaults and they were able to dislodge the cash from the ATM.
It's kind
After
of
that,
surprising to me whenever they said gold chain. I was a little surprised at first because normally gold is the weaker metal, but they clearly were doing it just kind of out of a flash, right? Let's be a little bit flashy with this. We got a gold chain instead of a silver one. That's the only thing I can comprehend with that one.
well, you know what? Okay. I've got to be honest with you, and I'm going to date myself here. When they said gold chain, I was thinking back to 1990s hip hop when everybody wore the big gold chains around their neck. I was like, what are they doing with a gold chain? Like, where, what? It, I was thoroughly confused initially because, you know, I was thinking LL Cool J walking around with his gold chain and, just my fault,
Ladies love Cool James.
that's it, right? My man Alaba is here from Nigeria. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Okay, so now, if you're just joining us, we're talking about a story where two individuals needed money, and instead of getting a job like the rest of us, they decided to go and steal a truck. They also stole a big gold chain. With that truck and that gold chain, they found a credit union that had an ATM. They tried to pry open the ATM with crowbars, and when that didn't work, they took the gold chain in the truck and boom, removed the ATM from its place, dislodging the vaults inside of it, tore open the vaults that were inside, and they took off. And
Did
they,
they steal the chain or did they buy it? I thought they bought the chain and then went over to Walmart and bought the other stuff. Do you
oh, you
think they
know what? You
stole that
might be
stuff?
right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's I was just looking to see about those details, but yeah, the fact that they went to Harbor Freight and then Walmart, which I love Harbor Freight. I could live in that store, but yeah, went there and then went over to Walmart. Hey guys, Walmart also sells chains. Just
Gold
could have just stopped
chains,
at one spot.
baby. I
Yeah.
don't know. gold chains. Okay. So now these individuals, they got away with it. They were scot-free
Yeah.
until they did what the younger generation does. What's that old saying? A secret is best kept between two people if one of them is dead.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So
I,
these two individuals thought that it would be a good idea to take selfies of themselves with the cash and post it on social media.
wait, did they post it on social media? I thought they just texted it between each other. Did they post it on social as well?
Oh, wait a minute. I thought they posted it on social media. Hold
I don't
on.
think they did.
Oh, wait, you might be right, Thomas. I am getting the story all wrong today. Hold on.
This one
Hold
was just
on.
so amusing that I actually kind of dug into this one a little bit. But yeah, I don't think they did.
Ooh,
I think they just texted between each other. So Rob, if they were just texting between each other, how in the world did they get caught?
ooh, that's a good question, Thomas. This part I do know.
Oh, well, there you go.
Thank you for lobbing that ball over to me. Oh, so yeah, Thomas is correct. They decided to take selfies. Now, here's what the police did. The police contacted the cell phone companies and said, "Listen, we need a record of all cell phone communications that have taken place in this general area where the bank was." So that's one thing that they did. let me put a pin in that. I'll come back to that one because that one's going to be shocking how they actually found them. They also had video footage from security cameras at nearby businesses. Now, obviously, that didn't help out too much because the young men wore masks. And on top of that, the cars that they used, one was a lookout vehicle and one was the truck they had stolen. The cars that they used, well, at least the truck was stolen. So that's not going to help you at all, right? However,
Right.
what they did was when they got the cell phone data, they looked for individuals who pinged off of the nearby cell phone tower who were texting each other. And they found that these young men were texting each other. They also found, okay, so they found that these young men were texting each other. They also found that one of the young men was specifically looking up or Googling or whatever he was using to search ATM robbery in that particular area.
Yeah, they were using Meta AI as their search engine to find that information. Another thing that was interesting is not only were they looking to see who was communicating. Now it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So the number of cell phones that are actively being used in this area, and it was up in where was that located at?
Saginaw, Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan, right? So I'm guessing it's a small town in Michigan, plus 3 a.m. So cell phone use is going to be minimal. But then also they pinged multiple towers, and so that was able because if you're just in one spot and you're texting back and forth, it's hard for obviously authorities can't say, well, you obviously did this because it's just in one spot. But the fact that they were able to kind of track them through the towers where it was interesting. Now I will say that these gentlemen did one thing really smart. You know what that is?
What is that?
Well, you realize where they originated from, don't you?
Yeah, they came from Texas to
Yep.
Michigan.
So that's a good 20-hour drive. So they drove 20 hours out of the way to, I mean, hopefully they had other things in mind, but at least they weren't robbing something local. They drove across the country to pull off this scam or this crime.
Well, but the thing is, I think if they had done that in Texas, they may have gotten shot. I
I
mean,
can't argue that.
right? So, but here's the thing, and I'm surprised no one has said it in the chat. Like I'm surprised Bob hadn't thought about this. Aren't you concerned that the police can actually pull cell phone tower activity even if you're innocent? Because think about this. The data that they got was everybody's data who pinged off the cell phone tower, and they looked for people who were communicating with one another. They didn't have a suspect in mind to actually try and go after, or at least not based on the detective's report that I read. And they may have just left that part out, but the report that I read actually has the phone numbers and everything in them that they found. So they found out that these gentlemen were texting one another, and then they went further and tried to get those individual records from those individuals.
So one thing that you missed on this then, which is the critical part, is when it comes to our personal rights. Law enforcement obtained search warrants
Yes, they
for
did.
records of mobile devices. So at least you have to go through the court system to get these search warrants to be able to get the records of mobile devices in that vicinity. So at least there is some sort of protection there before, like, so they can't just pull it, anytime they want to.
True. Very true. Uh-oh. Can you hear me, Thomas?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Well, my screen has frozen over here, and I don't know when it's going to unfreeze, but as long as you can still hear me, we're all good.
We are
Um,
good.
oh, there we go. Okay. But yeah, I was trying to share the screen so that I could show the selfies that they took that the police found after they started going through the cell phone activity. But for some reason, that is actually not working right now. Let me give it
You
one more
know,
try. Ah, here we go.
I was gonna say if you can't do it, I can.
Here we go. So there we go. That's one of the selfies. Well, two of the selfies. One gentleman, he's holding a wad of cash. They went to the Red Roof Inn, I think it was, and
Yep.
there's the other gentleman. So there you go.
So how much do they get out of the three ATMs? Two or three?
Whew. They got $88,900.
That's, let's see. So if you have two guys that did it, and then the getaway driver, right? So three people, that's 30 grand a piece. That's a lot of work for 30 grand.
It is a lot of work for 30 grand, but I guess maybe if you're an average worker, that might be how much you make in a year. But if you're a minimum wage worker, what is minimum wage now? Is that about 30 grand a year?
I don't know the minimum wage right now, but I will say if you have the drive to literally drive 20 hours across the country and to steal a truck and to buy the chains and then go over to Walmart and pick up that other stuff, you have a lot of ambition that could probably go towards making more than 30 grand a year. Is my instinct there.
I would think so. So minimum wage is $7.25 per hour, unless you're in a, a few states.
Yeah.
Like California is, $1,000 an hour. Well, Bob is saying, yeah, especially if you don't get to keep it very long. Yeah, that's not a lot of money, especially if you don't get to keep it very long. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that's just wild. But also, the other thing that the police found when they started looking at the cell phone records is these individuals were FaceTiming each other back and forth too. So that was another way that they were able to kind of put two and two together and figure out where they were. Um, the location data attached to one of the videos showed that it was received at the Red Roof Inn in Saginaw, Michigan, and that's how they actually found where they were, what hotel they were staying in. So
I,
that goes
I
to,
find it interesting because they did have like multiple phone calls that they tracked during this time, and the first one was a FaceTime call that was not answered. How panicked was the guy that tried to make the call and it wasn't answered? Right? Why isn't he picking up? What's wrong? What's going on?
yeah. Well, the other thing they did too was they had Cash App transfers too of about $26. And that
Yeah,
was
that was weird. That's 26. Seems that I was expecting to be like $20,000 or something. It's like $26.
yeah. And on one transfer, somebody went to Save a Lot and spent $1.37, and it was paid for on Cash App. I just, or was that one not Cash App?
Well, it says Cash App transfers were reviewed from May 10th to May 12th, and
Yeah.
it says following relevant transactions. I don't
So
understand how that would be I guess you know what they're doing with that? It's not the dollar amount, it's the location. So the first one, that $26 was from one of the accused to the other. So that kind of puts them kind of in cahoots together, right?
yep.
The next one was from one of them that was there in Saginaw. So that's placing, okay, he is in this city at this date. And then the next one, that $1.37, was on that same city, showing that they were still there on May 11th. So that's what they're probably doing with that is proving that they were in that location at that time.
Yeah. So okay. So you bring up another interesting point about their usage of technology. You said earlier they used Meta AI in order to search to they searched ATM thefts, Saginaw, Michigan. The other thing was the app, and I'm going to say the name wrong, either Waze or Waz, whatever it's called, the uh, the Maps app that Google eventually bought. I used to love it, but apparently they use that app to actually find the credit union. So the GPS showed that they found the credit union using the Waz or Waze, however it's pronounced, app. And so they have them trace back and forth to the Harbor Freight and to the credit union and to Walmart and let's see where else. And to the
And the
Inn.
Red Roof Inn, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, these guys clearly didn't think their own cell phones were going to be searched. They thought they were going to be able to get away with this and not have technology catch up with them. That's what this is all about, because they didn't try to hide anything when it comes to their phones.
here's the more interesting question, though. And I probably shouldn't ask this, but I will anyway. So they drove from Texas to Michigan. They stole a car. They were able to get an ATM. They were actually able to get into the ATM. If they had turned their cell phones off or just not carried any at all, would they have actually gotten away with it?
I think so.
I
If they
think
would
so
have,
too.
if they would have, I assume turn them off, but if not turn them off, well, maybe turn them off. Because if you turn them off, even if, because I know some phones still ping cell phone towers, even if they're off,
Yeah.
but you're not texting with each other, you're not communicating with each other. So, because that was the first thing that the police searched. So, if they had their phones off and then bought just burner phones, I don't see how the cops would have been able to catch them.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when I was reading this. I was like, oh man, they they got caught because, well, they're young guys and probably didn't think that through. But thankfully they didn't think that through, because they may have actually gotten away with it had it not been for that.
Yeah, and so if you watch movies, TV shows, and you start talking about the police officers, you get you get the impression that if they're in a small town in the middle of nowhere, then they aren't as smart and they don't have as much technology. And this shows that somebody at that police station or that was involved in going after this crime, they knew what they were doing, right? They clearly knew that they could use these, use the warrants, search the cell phone towers, understood how to go through that data and be able to identify what they needed. They had someone really, was the FBI involved in that part? Do you know?
I think so, because when you read the report, let's see, the law enforcement officer involved, Mr. Leon Wilson, and kudos to him. He
Yeah.
says, I am a police officer in the state of Michigan. I have been since and have been since 2007. I'm currently assigned to the Mid Michigan Safe Streets Task Force. Uh, as a task force officer with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and have
There we
been
go.
since March of 2023. So he is an FBI agent with the Mid Michigan Safe Streets Task Force. And he says, as such, I investigate violent individuals and street gangs for various violations of federal law, including narcotics trafficking, weapons offenses, various fraudulent activity, and violent crimes such as robbery. And reading the report, I mean, it's very comprehensive, very meticulous, very articulate. It's a very well written report.
I completely agree with that. It was very easy to follow. You could kind of track the course of the entire investigation. There was really no questions, that I had as I was reading through it. It was very clear, very well done.
Yeah. So kudos to him, man, because I just kept thinking if they had not slipped up, they may not have gotten caught.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they might not have gotten caught, but this is also a great example as auditors how we should do our job as well, right?
yep.
It's clear he was very thorough. They took their time. They didn't cut corners. They had to get a warrant to be able to search the tower information, but then they had to get additional warrants to actually go and look at the phones and look at those details there. So he had to go through certain procedures and steps, and then he had to document everything very clearly and concisely. And we can definitely, this is one of those times where we should look at this and use it as an example of how we should do our jobs as auditors.
Well, and what's really interesting, I'm trying to find this one line that got me because it showed uh, just how thorough yet still objective he was. And it's a line towards the end where he laid out his case and then he said something like, based on all of this, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. So towards the end, he says, based on the foregoing, there is probable cause to believe that the two gentlemen did break into the ATM at the United Financial Credit Union in violation of 18 USC 2113B. So even with that, he laid out the case, he got pictures of him and everything. He just said there's probable cause. So in other words, we still have to go to a court of law, present the evidence before a jury who will then judge whether they should be convicted of the crime or not. He didn't say they did it. It just this was easy read. It was very much so like how, as you just said, how we should conduct our audit work. Grab the evidence. You may make some sort of conclusions, but your conclusions are, hey, this is what the evidence is saying, but we still need to go forward. This is just great, man.
This was great. And then not only, he's what a sheriff, I think he said. I could be wrong about that, but working with the FBI. But there was another detective that was actually way out in St. Martin Parish, Louisiana, and I assume whenever you're doing searches, it pings that certain phone numbers and other information is involved in other investigations. And Detective Kirsten McVeigh from Louisiana, from the St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana, actually helped advise on that because she was investigating an ATM theft in Louisiana using very similar tactics. So it seems to me like she might now have more information that might be able to help her with that investigation also. So it's nice to see the different departments across the country working together on this one.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention that part. Yeah. So yeah, he did reach out to another detective in Louisiana who had similar events. Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah,
And
I forgot about that.
and that's a great reason why we should be involved in whether it's a CAE roundtable, IIA chapter, anything like that, where you can talk to your peers, right? Bounce ideas off of them. Yeah, if we're come across any kind of audit issue, odds are someone else has come across the exact same thing in their career, right? And so having those connections, having people you can, talk to and help with investigations is very helpful. So yeah, this is, like this is just a really well done investigation. I'm sure whatever attorney is getting this is looking at me like, yep, thank you.
Yeah, man. Oh, all right. So, anything else we want to say about this story this week?
Nothing that I can think of. It was, it's not an overly complicated story, but it's so nice to see the details that are there. And and I don't remember what show I was watching, but there was something I was watching, and they were making the statement that if you can't catch a criminal now, just wait because they're going to do something stupid. So you might not be able to catch them for this crime, but you can catch them for something else. So this is one of those instances where something happened where they were able to catch them. So very thankful that it, because if it's happened in Louisiana, allegedly happened in Michigan, allegedly, they might be getting bolder and could do worse stuff. So it's nice to see this caught.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it, folks. Cash out loud when the receipts are selfies. Episode number 181 of the Friday Fraudster. If you like this podcast, tell your friends. If you really, really like it, call me up and invite me to train at your IIA chapter or for your organization. Anything else, Thomas?
Training sponsorships. We are actively looking for conferences and IIA events to sponsor, and not even IIA, but if it is related to internal audit, and you're looking for speakers, you're looking for sponsors, hit up Rob, hit up me. We would love to help and support, and we'll bring a demo station of Audit Leverage so you can check out some great AI tools as well as IA Stream for an internal audit platform. So very happy to travel anywhere to show this stuff off.
I just happen to have that screen open. Audit Leverage, the best AI platform for
That
internal
one,
auditors.
that one wasn't planned ahead of time, I swear.
Now that actually wasn't planned. I was sitting here using it because I actually do use it myself. So I was sitting here using it and thought I would pop it up. You know what? I'm almost wondering, should we show just a brief little demo of one of the modules within it while we're here? I don't know if we have enough people here today that are interested in it. Maybe we should do a webinar next week and just bring people into the webinar to show what an artificial intelligence tool built by auditors for auditors can actually do. If you're listening to this live or to the replay and you would like to be a part of a webinar, you can do one of two things, one of three things, I guess. You can message me, you can message Thomas, or you can drop webinar down into the chat and we'll invite you to it.
Absolutely. These the webinars, the demos are so much fun because especially some of those that we're looking at root cause analysis. Tell us some stupid, idiotic issue that you found, and let's come up with a reason why. And putting things like because people are lazy gives you some very funny results there. So yeah, it's a great tool to demo. So definitely let us know. Happy to show it off to anyone and everyone. It's a fantastic product.
All right. So, with that said, everyone, we will see you next week.
Have a great weekend.